Hey there, and welcome to the screencast about ChatGPT for teacher use. Really to show educators how they can use ChatGPT as a great tool, a great assistant to kind of get certain tasks that we have to do throughout our days, throughout our school years, to do them and to make, our job and our workload just a little bit lighter. So let's do a couple of things here. So first, let's just go over a quick agenda for this video. I want to talk about with you what ChatGPT is, really what AI is as well, how we can access it, and really to go over these things, these tasks that I find as a teacher I do a lot. Most teachers will find they're doing these things a lot too, and that's creating questions, creating lessons, creating rubrics, creating activities, and even kind of an editor as well, like being able to write something and then have ChatGPT kind of edit that as well. So let's kind of, before we do anything, let's kind of talk about what ChatGPT is and what other AIs really are. And it's really this term, generative artificial intelligence, which is a really big definition for this. But really the way to think about it in its simplest terms is generative AI, kind of like when you ask it a question or you're asking it to do something, it looks around pretty much at all documents on the internet, everything kind of like that humans have learned over time and have put online. It's kind of sifting through all of that stuff to figure out what it is you need to do and to respond to in the best way possible. And it's generating that stuff kind of at lightning speed where it sometimes can feel like you're actually talking to a person. A lot of these AIs, specifically in ChatGPT, are chatbot based, where you are kind of like text messaging with an AI, and really they're ultimately all doing these things where you are asking it questions or you're asking it to complete tasks that you give or ask it to do. How to access it? To how to access ChatGPT, you're really going to go to this link right here. I'll put it in the description of this video so you can get there quickly. But just know that ChatGPT isn't the only AI out there. There is, of course, Microsoft's Copilot. There is Google's Bard. There's Claude. There's even other ones, some of them text-based, some of them image-based, and there's a lot of them that are coming out, and being made and kind of unleashed to the world. But these are the top, really 4 between ChatGPT and these 3 right here that are being used, and that schools may end up adopting and using one day. So let's talk about really how can teachers use it. So just know that when you're asking ChatGPT questions, you want to use these basic question words of who or what, of did what, of when, of where, when, why, and how, to really kind of probe ChatGPT to kind of get information from it, and also giving it commands as well. And those, of course, are like, can you make me, create a, write a, solve for, those types of things. And ChatGPT is really good at doing those things. So just going to jump into ChatGPT. When I click that link, it brings me here. Of course, you have to make an account for it. This is what it looks like. And you can already see here, it's like asking me to do some things, like write an email expressing your love for your parents. I don't really want to do that right now. But let's say I wanted to, I really wanted to make a burrito, right? So let's say, can you give me a recipe for homemade burritos? Let me spell that correctly. There we go. I think that wants one word. Cool. Now, I always like to be grammatically correct in here. ChatGPT doesn't need me to be that way, but I still like to do that so that I always remember to do it. So here's my recipe right now. It's coming out at lightning speed, giving me my instructions and everything and going from there. And I can stop and scroll back up to kind of go back to there. So this is wonderful. This is giving it to me and I could try this. I could even say okay, can you give me this again without, and make it vegetarian? And there we go. Of course, here's a vegetarian version of the homemade burrito recipe. Bam, and it's giving me everything, and it's excluding the meat instructions and stuff that were in there. So this is all good, and this has nothing to do with education. It's just a cool way of doing things, and you can kind of see that everything is kind of encapsulated now in this homemade burrito recipe. I can always rename it if I wanted to, just call it HBR vegetarian or something like that. And I could save it just like that. But this is just how you start interfacing with ChatGPT. But if I actually want to do something with it educationally, there's a lot of power here that I could do. So again, like I said earlier, some of the things that you can do with it, it's not limited to these, but these are the kind of ones that I want to just kind of show you. Creating questions, creating lessons, rubrics, activities, and even lightly editing or advanced editing, depending on what you need for. So let's kind of bring up this. So I just want to kind of look at this for a second. So let's say I'm an ELA teacher and I teach 8th grade, and the text I'm using is The Giver by Lois Lowry, which is a fantastic book. A lot of 8th grade students read it. I know that in our school, a lot of 8th grade students read it here. This is the content that I'm going to be using, but by no means can this only be done in an English classroom. Just substitute the content for whatever you're teaching to do pretty much exactly what I'm going to show you right here. But I'm centering everything around here. So let's say I am reading The Giver and so let's make a new chat because I don't want it to mess up with my burrito recipe right there. Let's say, let me ask it can you provide me with open-ended questions to ask 8th graders at the end, or 8th graders that covers the entire book, The Giver. Let's see what happens. Cool. So ChatGPT. So in my question, I'm asking it open-ended, 8th grade, and the book. So here it goes. Certainly, here are some open-ended questions about The Giver that can spark discussion for critical thinking amongst 8th graders. So how does the concept of sameness influence society in The Giver? How do you think life would be different if you lived in such a society? So if I'm a teacher and I finished it, or if I'm coming up to these concepts within the book, these are certain things that I could really maybe use, maybe not just copy and paste this and use them, but if I see a good question in here, I can use that. Like the community in The Giver suppresses individuality and freedom of choice. How do the characters resist or conform to these societal expectations? So this might be something that I can tweak or that I can use verbatim in a class discussion in a written response. And I've got a selection here. So I can even say thanks. I always like to say thank you to it because in case it does take over one day, maybe it'll be nice to me and not, kill me. So let's say thanks. Can you give me 3 more? And it's going to say, of course, and then it's going to give me 3 more of those. I could also ask it to, can you focus the questions on the first 3 chapters of the book? Let's see if it could do that. Certainly, here's open-ended questions for the first 3 chapters of The Givers, and now it's giving me these 3 questions, and it's only focusing on what's happening in the first 3 questions of The Giver. The first 3 chapters. Now, this could be really scary because it knows all this information, but I'm trying to think about it from the lens of, hey, now I've got really good questions or questions I can build off of for the exact focuses that I need. I can even make it more specific. So let's say, can you give me a 10-question multiple choice quiz that covers events that happen in chapters 1 through 6 of The Giver. Let's see what it does. Certainly, here's a multiple choice exam. Boom. Here we go. So it's giving me just kind of I might be using maybe something just to check for that you're reading it, or check for understanding or certain reading comprehension, things like that. But here it's giving me the stuff. And then at the end, it's also going to give me the answers to these questions as well, which is really, really nice. So that's that. This is creating questions, even getting into a little bit of creating a quiz. Let's go back here because let's talk about creating lessons. So let's say I want to create a lesson. I'm going to start a new conversation here, or a new chat here. So I'm going to ask it, can you make me a lesson centered around the idea of let's say grief, because grief is a theme that comes up in that book, centered around grief for 8th graders. And please make it aligned to the next generation generation standards. Cool, so let's see what it's going to do. Certainly, grief is a complex, but here we go. It's giving me next generation standards here, learning objectives, materials I'm going to need, procedures, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, giving me my main activities. Now, some of these things may not be things that I actually, think I want to use, but it's a good, or I can change things. It's a good place to jump off. It's giving you assessment, extension activities, conclusions. But something I saw up here is it's giving, the times are kind of off. Like I work in a school where there are 42-minute periods. So let me ask it like, this is great, but can you break it down into 2 42-minute class periods? Let's see what it does. Of course. Cool. Day 1, understanding grief. And it's giving me down to and fitting it into that timeline that I'm asking it to. Now, again, it's not perfect. I wouldn't just take this and go, okay, here we go. Here's what I'm doing. Kind of in the same way that if I was getting a lesson from a colleague, or if I had found something online, I wouldn't just do it verbatim. I would take it, I would make it my own style. I would do something that would actually work for me, as opposed to just kind of taking what worked for someone else and using it. But it's a really good place to start the process of this. So this is that. It'll give me this, and I can continue going through here. So even if I say like, can you plan a 3-day seminar centered around grief for 8th graders in an ELA classroom? Let's see what that'll do. I don't know if it'll know what that is. Cool, here we go. So there we go. It's giving me these things, and I could really ask it if I'm specific. I can get it to do exactly what I want it to do, as a place to like kind of go there, and I could stop and slow it down and all that good stuff. But this is it. This is really a way to kind of generate lessons and to do those types of things that you may or may want to do. So let's go back here, like creating rubrics. So let's say, I'm going to make a new chat here. Let's say, can you give me a rubric? Now, I don't have an assessment, but let's say I wanted to make an assessment for this. Actually, let's do this. Can you make a written assessment centered around an open-ended question for the giver for 8th graders? Let's see. Cool. Literary assessment. Open-ended question. Here it is. Begin your essay. Okay. Cool. So it's giving me kind of like this assessment it's building. And again, I can change this stuff. I could just copy this stuff and put it in. But cool. So let's say this is the assessment I want to do. And I say, excellent. Can you make me a rubric for this? And here we go. It's giving me a rubric and building it for me. Look, this is amazing. I've spent so many hours crafting rubrics. And again, just like with everything else, I may not want to use exactly these things. And I may want to change things, but I could take this and I can copy it and I can put it in a Word document, and then boom, this is it. It's giving me a great place to jump off from, to do that, and saying, excellent, this is intended for provide guidance criteria for assessment of literary analysis of the giver. So it's really a great place to kind of do that stuff. And, keeping in mind, like I've been recording now for 14 minutes and I've done all of this work really in just the time that it's taking me to kind of show you this. So those are rubrics. Activities, those are lesson plans. So let's say, let's start a new chat here, and let's call it, let's say I really want to make a stations activity. Can you make me a stations activity that focuses on chapters 1 through 9 of The Giver? Please make it for 8th graders and make it next generation standards friendly too. So here we go. It's doing its thing. it's making stations for me. Station 1, it's giving me. Station 2, it's giving me. Now again, just like with everything else, it may not give me what I want. I may have to go in here, I may have to tweak things. But it's giving me all this stuff here. Really, 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 really good things to use. Or is it, like I've been saying the whole time, like a really good starting off point. But this is that. Now, let's say you are, and really with that, it's any activity you can come up with, really run the gamut of whatever you do in your classrooms, ask it to do it and see what comes up. And it might be something great that you can use, and it might be a really good starting off point for you. Finally, down here, an editor. So let's say you are, let's say I'm gonna make this right here. Let's say I'm gonna make a new conversation here. Let's say I need to send out an email to parents, or let's say I need to, send an email to my principal, and I have a question I need to ask her, to my chairperson or someone above me. And let's say I wanted to make sure I didn't have any errors. If I had written something, I can copy and paste it into here. Or I could also do something like this. Can you write a professional email asking for professional email to a principal of a high school, asking permission to, take students on a field trip to, let's say, Charles Dickens' house in London, England. Let's see what it does. Cool, and here it's going. Boom, it's giving me this. And this is wonderful. And it's giving me all this, and I can even say, can you make this again, but please be a little more friendly. Cool, and it's sure if we can compare it, we can see what it's doing. It's asking me to fill these things in. It's doing all of these things for me, automating these tasks for me. Now, again, just like I keep saying, this is kind of like very stale writing. And I might want to make sure that it's something that I actually want to send. So I would look at it. I would make sure that it's something that's, I want my name attached to, and something that's appropriate to send to the people that be. And you could do this with anything. You can take a whole student's essay and put it in here and say, please, correct this for grammar. Or if you had written something and you wanted to do that, you can do that stuff in there as well. So keep that in mind, that ChatGPT can be very scary. It can be very fun. But as it is right now, it's a tool just like anything else. And it's something you can take advantage of and, help make your life and your day-to-day tasks a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more easier for yourself. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. If you're in my school building, you can always message me on Teams or Outlook. And if you're finding this video out there and you're not part of my school organization, please drop a comment to this video, and I'll try to get back to you as best as I can. Really use this power for good is what I always say, and not for any nefarious reason. And have a great day. Take care.